Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wasallam. نويت التعلم والتعليم والمذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضات قرب ثواب سبحانه وتعالى مع عنف وعفو برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. اللهم ارزقنا يا رب فهم النبيين وحفظ المرسلين وإلهام الملائكة المقربين في عافية يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم افتح علينا فتوح العارفين وفقهنا في الدين وعلم التأويل واهدنا إلى سواء السبيل. اللهم انفعنا وارفعنا وعرفنا بالعلم النافع وانفعنا به أنفسنا وأهلنا وأوطاننا وديارنا وجميع المسلمين يا رب العالمين. الفاتحة. Okay, just mention our niyat kita. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. Pizza is not here. Okay, we have reached from the book مقاصد حلقات التعليم ووسائلها ووسائلها للحبيب العلامة الحبيب العارف بالله عمر بن محمد بن سالم بن حفيظ نفعنا به وبعلومه في الدارين إلى أن قال. From the book, the aims and objectives of circles of knowledge or secret knowledge and how to achieve to these aims and objectives by the great scholar and knower of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Sayyidi Habib Omar. May we benefit by him and by his knowledge in both abodes. To where he has said in the book, where he has said, so we are on page, we've done the 6th, right? يهتم مجال الأسئلة ويهتم بتوضيح جوابها. نعم. Right, so basically we are on the second aims and objectives, right? So you have 4 objectives of secret knowledge. In this book, Habib Omar, he covers all 4, and he covers how do we arrive at these 4. So the first one, as mentioned before, right, is basically to engrave in their hearts the love and the exaltation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, so and Habib has mentioned 16 ways, right, by which we achieve this, and we have covered them, right, in the previous lessons. Right, so so every week, try to make sure that you are applying whatever he is covering. This book is a book very much on action. Like, it's all point form. It's really, you have to, there's nothing else to it. Just apply. Just do what he says. Just do. Right? So there's no, there's no thinking about it. There's no whatever. It's not even deep. It is deep. Right? But it's very application kind of book. Right? So the first one is to ingrain in the heart of the child, right, or the student, right, the love and the exaltation and the respect for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and all that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has exalted regarding the prophets, the books, Yawmul Qiyamah, the day of judgment, heaven and hell, right, deeds that are good and that are bad, right? So all that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made serious and heavy, right, for us to make these things also serious and heavy, that we exalt good deeds and that we really, really frown upon bad deeds. We do not allow these things because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hates bad deeds. And Rasulullah SAW also hates bad deeds. Right? So all that is exalted, we exalt, and all that is brought low, we bring low. Right? In accordance to what Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala has mentioned in the Quran and what Rasulullah has taught us in the Hadith. So the second objective, right, is how do you deliver the information. So this is only one of the objectives, which many people will focus so much on, right? But then for me, this is only one. Right? There are 4 objectives of seeking knowledge, right? And the fourth one even more. The third one, after this, the third one even more, which speaks about suluk, right? About your adab, about your behavior, about listening, about responding, right? And each of them, Habib, he will say this is more important, right? Because there are many talks about Habib will give. He will say that to the students in Darul Zahra, he will say that I don't care about what knowledge you acquire. If you have no adab, you have no knowledge. It's something that is driven into the girls. If there's no adab, there is no knowledge. I don't care if you memorize the whole Quran. If you don't know how to have adab, if those who are around you, you have nothing. That is in the third objectives of knowledge. So it's something that it's so different, right, from what we're exposed to in our time, in our country. And when it comes to knowledge, the emphasis, there is a very great emphasis, right, on adab. Very great emphasis on adab with Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, right, on respect of all that Allah has made great. So this is only one part. That's all. Like the deliverance of the knowledge itself. Right. So that one Habib has spoken to us, and he has said we have gone to the first 6. Right, very briefly. Basically, he speaks about how to teach in the first 6. Raise your voice, use gestures, repeat, open the floor to questions, make sure they understand the answer when they ask you the question. So sometimes even when you ask me a question, I will say, do you get it? Do you understand the answer? Right? To just check if the students actually really understood what was the answer. Do you catch? Because sometimes we go in around to get to the answer. So I'm not so sure if you actually got the answer itself. Right? So it is to take time. And this is why this kind of education, you cannot, in a sense, put the syllabus on it, right? Because you need to make sure the students are understanding. Do you get it before I move forward? Right? Don't like what he's saying here. Don't leave them right completely blur and you keep moving forward. Right? In that case, you still have to go back, right? And firm it up, right? It doesn't mean that you go forward that you're going to get it eventually. Right? Some might. Right, but we know that a lot of them get lost, and then you still need to go back, and you still need to emphasize it. So even like Quran, especially Quran, right? So even for me, I try to muraja'ah at least half a juz every week. I mean, make sure it's firm, half a juz. Right, but sometimes I skip, every day I'm supposed to do 2 pages of muraja'ah. That kind of thing, because that's what I can handle. That's what I should do more, but that's what I can handle for now. Right? So I would some days I would not do the muraja'ah because I'm very busy on those days. So then following this, I have to do the next 2 pages, right? So but I don't allow myself to go forward, because if I go forward, I'll make other pages firm, but those 2 that I left are not going to be firm, right? So I'll force myself to do 3 pages to catch up, right? Because I left it out, right, in a way lah. So in a sense, it is an enforcement, which is why when it comes to Quran memorization, right, even those who have memorized the Quran, I have teachers in Tarim, and both mother and father, husband and wife, both of them are memorizers of the Quran. They have memorized the Quran, right? But they don't force their kids on the memorization of the Quran. They make them memorize Amma, the important surahs, right? But to force them onto the Quran memorization, right, they actually take a back seat and they allow the child to push themselves, right? Because you don't want to force them to memorize the whole Quran, and then they did it only for you. So once they have memorized it, they will leave it, right? And they will not continue with their muraja'ah. But if you check them, you see, do they have the drive? Do they have the will? Do they want to by themselves memorize the Quran? Then you encourage. But if they say, I cannot handle this, right, it's too difficult, then don't push, right? Allow them, because Quran memorization is very heavy. It is a lifelong commitment, dedication, right? It is every day. You cannot leave it, right? So it is something that I personally, I would not. I would say don't force them on it, right? The minimum, if you want to make them memorize something, Juz Amma, and then surahs that they read every day. Surah Yasin, Surah Waqiah, Surah Muluk, Surah Sajdah, Surah Dukhan, Surah Rahman. Okay, that's a lot already, right? That in itself is a lot, right? That's it, right? Thereafter, it has to come from them. They have to be the one to want it, Right? Otherwise, you are going to be doing them a disfavor, enforcing them, and then they don't want to follow up the muraja. They feel no tasting in it, they don't want to do it, and they dosa after that. Because they have left the muraja. Quran is amanah, very heavy amanah. Alright, so but the teaching of the Quran, that means learning the Quran in the meanings and applying the Quran and following the Quran, right, that is encouraged, right? You need to push them on that because that is on every Muslim. You need to do that. Right? But the memorization, and I'm not saying this in any way, that I am like belittling memorization or whatsoever. I want to memorize. I am in my process of memorization, and it's a very great thing. It's a very great thing if you can handle it. Right? If you cannot handle it, don't. And don't go into it if you cannot handle it. Right? So number 7, Habib goes into and he says, وَيَحُثُّهُمْ عَلَى كِتَابَةِ الْفَوَائِدِ خُصُوصًا ما يطرق سمع أحدهم لأول مرة ويجعلون لها دفترا خاصا لفوائد كل فن موضع مخصوص. Alright, so this is for like older students, right? So those who are able to write. Okay, so for younger kids it's different, right? But for students, because this book is for basically all students, whether adult or children, right? So to encourage them to write down information, right? If you're able to write, write down information, especially if it is the first time they have heard it. And of course, with the skills of teaching is that you write down important things on the board, so the students will be able to refer and they know what point you're on. Right? These are all skills in teaching, Right? So to encourage them, right, if they're able to write down. Right? But of course, if it's difficult, like for those who are your mothers and you have like babies with you and whatever, it's difficult to write. Right? So if it's recorded and on the recording, you can write it down. Or maybe make sure that for every lesson, at least 3 things you memorize. You memorize 3 things from the lesson, for example. Right? But he said to encourage them to have a notebook. For every lesson, they have to have a special notebook, or even within the notebook, they need to have a special part for each subject. Right? So don't like mix everything together. Right? Just have things that are compartmentalized, and you never know when they are going to come in handy, and come in useful for you. Right. So number 8, أن يسألهم في أول كل درس عن مهمات مسائل الدرس الذي قبله. Right, so and before every lesson, right, there needs to be a short bit of revision. And so by right, in any school, the teacher needs to question the students, ask questions among the students about the previous lesson. Right, so what did we learn in the previous lesson? Who can give me 3 ways in which you can make teaching more effective? Right, so like that is what basically everything is supposed to do before a lesson. So when you teach your children, right, so especially for your children, so what did you learn yesterday? Right, so you revise. Right, so you take time. Right, don't rush this. Don't rush. That's the thing about education. Don't rush education. Right, because you need to make sure that they understand. Right, so let's say for example yesterday we took about the occupations. Right, so okay, today we're going to revise about it. Right, so what do you understand about that? Right, what is amal? Right, what is a dream? What's a dream? Right, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right, that kind of thing. Right, so in a sense, you have every day has to be a repetition of the previous day. Never, it is unfortunate lah that we're always forced to go ahead with the syllabus and not take time to do muraja'ah, because when it comes to especially Quran, muraja'ah is heavier, right, than new memorization. Right, more time is spent on muraja'ah than memorizing new. Right, so in fact, new memorize like half a page, kind of thing. Muraja'ah 5 page. Right, that is the way lah. Right, and that is not just Quran, all of your subjects. So you learn one topic, like you are going to revise the previous 2 or 3 topics. Like, that's what they used to do lah. Right, so always never undermine or never belittle revision. Revision is the most important thing. And the easiest way to do revision, right, for students is to make them teach. That means you as a teacher sit down, right, or as a parent sit down. Okay, give them the whiteboard. Okay, you tell me. You tell me what you learned yesterday. You teach me. And that will really engrave in them what they have learned the previous day, because they have to think like what it was. So number 9, أن يحرر الأسئلة في نهاية الأسبوع أو أو شهر أو كل ما ختم بابا أو عدة الأبواب من أبواب الكتاب. Alright, so it is to have questions or to prepare questions, right? To have questions at the end of every week on what you have learned for the week, or the end of every month, or the end of every chapter, right? So to have a kind of like simple tests, right? To see what has been understood, what has been taken, right? Or maybe a few chapters, right? So basically he's teaching to have a testing system, right? Whereby you assessment system, right? But the way they for younger children, right, it is not, try not to make it heavy or scary or whatsoever, but more of verbal assessment is okay, right? Just to see what they understood, right? Make them teach you, that's also assessment, right? Make them explain, that's also assessment, right? But if you can do written assessments later on, that is also better, right? for children. So assessment timing, right? So he said assessments ready help, and I also agree with assessments. I'm someone who, I'm not of those who say no exams. I say exams, right? But not to make it so stressful, right? Because like I don't know why my students so stressed about O levels. Like it's not your life. Come on, like O level is not life. Yeah, and we have to drill that. It's just an exam. It's just an exam. It's okay. Fail pun fail. It's okay. Life goes on. You know, but then but because we're so ingrained, you know, must get A, that kind of thing. Don't be that. Don't be there. Place exams where they are. They're assessments. So when Darul Zahra, I will study very hard for every. I'll put my best. And whatever it is lah. Right? Don't cry over exams. Right? Why do people cry over results? Why do you cry? Is this the end of the world? It's not. It's just your result. Halas. That does not determine whether you go to hell, whether you go to heaven or hell. Like heaven or hell, then you cry lah. You know, like if you fail that test. Right? But in this world, you know, I always tell my students. Like she came to tuition that day, and she was like I don't know what to do about my lids, my teacher lah. My lid is so out of place. I don't know what is going on in the book. I have no clue what's going on, and she begins to cry and break down. And I was like, relax, it's just lit. It's just lit. That's all. It's a book that you learn. Even if you don't get your A, it's fine. You get B, khalas. You don't go to VJ, it's okay. You know, like, because she wants to go to VJ. I'm like, it's okay, go to the JC, it's okay, go to Poly, it's okay. You know, like seriously, I think our culture, it really places things not where it is. These are not where it is. It's all it is to test. That's all. So for your children, you know, you test them their Quran, right? Don't make them so stressed about it. Right? Try not to make them like, you know, like to the point whereby they like, you know, I don't want to memorize anymore. Khalas, you know, I hate this. I have heard kids say, I hate the Quran. I don't want the Quran. Right? Because they're so stressed about it with ngaji. I'm so stressed because Ustaz always pukul, Ustaz always scold. Right? Don't do that. Don't do that to them. So the exam, and some people, when they identify problems, they don't see the problem itself. So there are people and educators out there who are against the exams. Right? But it's not the exam that is the problem. It's the stress that people put on exams that's the problem, not the exam. Exams are fine. Right? Exams are fine as long as you bring them in a proper way, right? And you let them face it in a proper way. It's okay, right? Don't be so scared. Right? If our culture, if people can even kill themselves over exams, I mean literally kill themselves and commit suicide over exams, what kind of culture is that? Where have you placed exams? It's just an assessment. And alhamdulillah, our religion, I mean how Allah has made the test of life, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only assesses us on our efforts and never on the result. Right? Whereas our exams in this world, right, it does not assess the effort, it assesses the result. Right? So we have seen students who work so hard for the paper and they still fail. And kids who work, you know, they hardly work and they get very well. Right? And you know that you know that's not fair, right? But that's how the system works. But you know, in the test of life, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards effort. And you tell them, keep telling them. And when I was teaching in Madrasah Irsyad 2 years ago, doing the lowest group in the primary 6 group that time. I think I was there after I graduated. Right, for a few months lah, to help them. Right, so and you see the kids there, they put in so much effort. Subhanallah, the file is all neatly filed. All the homework he did all get wrong. You know, like basically he put it's this child lah, but the child put in so much effort. He never gets more than 20 out of 100 ever. Right, so like I told him lah that for me, I don't care about the PSLE. For me, I think you have passed. Right, for me is I feel so seeing how much you work and how much and you always help me. You're always at my khidmah. You always with so much manners towards me as your teacher. Like to me, you have won. Right, you have won already. And whatever the PSLE shows you, that's not your life. Because I see good adab in this boy, and I see good manners, and I see good habits. Of doing his work and filing, everything pun semua all proper, all that. Not anyhow. He's a good person who has grown up. So I told him that I don't care your kid what is it going to be. It's not going to be the end of your life. And that is how you tell them, because Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala has made that the way, whereby He says about the one who reads the Quran, and then as high as the Quran, and the one who reads the Quran, who is melodious, who is who reads very well. Right, the fishes and the birds say istighfar for that person, right? And the angels themselves, right, say istighfar for that person. The whole of creation says istighfar for that person. And then the hadith goes, and Rasulullah says that, and for the one, right, who ta'ah, right, he stutters, fa'ah. The hadith goes, he doesn't go very well with his tradition. For that person, twice the reward. Right, so I mean, it's not the result. Because kalau result, the first one will win the competition. The second one will not win anything. Kan? Tapi kalau akhirah, the second one gets twice the result. I mean, gets twice the reward. Right? Because he's trying. Right? He's not giving up. Right? And that is what we bring to them. Right? We bring them, the exam is there, but I want to see who's working harder. Right? I don't care about your results. I just want to see who has better attitude towards this. Right? And who will listen to my words, follow what I say, right? Do your work properly, keep your books away, all of these things. And when it comes to exams, right? So it's about exams, eh? Right. So okay, understood about that point about exams. Right, so it's not easy. Yeah, it's not easy to get the mindset out, but you need to, because we have lived life, and we've seen so many people who failed their PSLE, they failed their O-level, they're fine. It's not life. Like for me, yeah, you have, like for me, for my own child, I would say that you have failed. Like if you miss your Zuhur, I'll be very upset with that. I don't care if you get F. Right, your Zuhur, if you miss your Zuhur, that's the worst thing that could have happened. Like in a way, priorities. About how many of our kids exam maturity, they go to school they leave house at 12:30, no Zuhur whatsoever. Come out of the exam hall for the tea. No Zuhur. Right, and that is the mentality. And I keep telling them, you all better pray. Right, but they don't. What can I do? Right, but it's the parents lah. Because the emphasis on the exam is so great that everything else is pushed aside. Right, so that's why, like, for us also, like, I don't care if it's better that you fail and you do it yourself than you cheat and you do well. Right, that's where cheating comes in. Because cheating is basically putting aside ethics and prioritizing the result. That is cheating. Right? If you're doing that means you have taught them wrong. If you find them cheating, they have been taught wrong. Because they are prioritizing results over ethics. Right. Moving on the head. It's okay if they don't get their A. Put it in your heart. It's okay if they fail as long as they tried. That's it. It's okay if they fail as long as they try, right? And if they try, then it's not a failure. And it's not okay if they score very well and they did it being rude to me, or did it being rude to your teacher, or did it being very obnoxious about it. Right? For me, it doesn't matter any A1. Does not matter to me. Right. So number 10. وأن يطالبهم بتقوية المحفوظات وإحسان النطق بها ويحثهم على كثرة تكريرها وترديدها وأن لا يكتفي أحدهم بمجرد حفظها ويرى أنه قد استوعبها وإن شئتم أن تحفظوا ما علمتم فذلك في تكرير درس وتردد. Alright, وتردد. So here, right, it is that you chase them upon, right, or you make them strengthen their memorization, what they have memorized, and to make them say it clearly, right? So here, on all lessons, but especially Quran, all lessons, especially Quran, right? So for you to follow up with their memorization, to make them repeat it over and over and over again, to check the pronunciation as they grow older. Because right now, I'm letting it off when they're not pronouncing it well. As they grow older and they can understand more things, I will need to have to tell them about where is the A, because many of them are not doing the A properly. But right now I can't explain to them, because I say it's here in your throat. Right? They're like, what is the throat? So at this point it's allowed, right? But don't allow it to continue to the adulthood. Right? So when they reach age of 7, 8, 9, right, you chase them after all the makharij. They need to be pronouncing it well, right? And repeat the memorization over and over and over again. Don't allow them to memorize things wrong. So now at this age, what you look out for is between mim and nun, right? So if you notice, some of our halakat, right, they will say the mim instead of nun, right? So they will say ba instead of, I don't know, mim, right? They will change. What?
My kids will say nun
For ba.
Nun and mim.
Nun and mim, they will mix it up, right? So that one they understand, because mim look at your lips, right? So if you put your lips together, it means it's a mim, right? If it's open, that means it's a nun, right? So just check their lips. So I'm always like looking at their faces to see what they are saying, right? Because like sometimes they will say ba instead even of a mim, they say ba, right? So they're like mim ba, whatever lah they were saying that just now today. So check their letters. As they grow older, make them repeat over and over again, right? And encourage them or push them on repetition, right? Don't let it be that they are bored, so you stop repeating and you go on to something that is new, right? Never stop repeating. Repeating has to happen over and over and over again, even if they are bored, right? It has to be repeated. Right? And not let anyone, right, be pleased or be content with her memorization that is one time round, but make them keep to the memorization each time, right? And that you see that their memorization has completely, it has encompassed them. They have understood the memorization. You need to see that, right, in them, right? So and here he says, he mentions two lines of poetry, that if you want, right, to memorize whatever you have learned, then that is only by repetition of the lesson. It needs to repeat. For adults and for young kids, you need to repeat over and over again, right? Repetition. So try, when it comes to repetition, for kids sometimes it gets very boring lah, right? So maybe, but whatever way lah you can do it, but make sure that it is something that they need to repeat, especially Quran, right? The parent you need to not. And also, that day we were mentioning about the ways of memorizing Quran, right? So most of them memorize ayats, but they don't memorize links between ayats. That one is important, right? Do not give them the next ayat, right? So a lot of parents that I see, that they will not just you all, but a lot. It's common for parents to prompt, right? So even for me, when I was memorizing Quran, and there was only one time I went to my neighbor's house for her to read, for her to listen to me while I recite. And she kept prompting at every ayat. It annoyed me so much, right? Because I'm trying to memorize and I'm reciting, right? But the moment I pause to think, she prompt. And I'd be like, sorry, can you don't prompt? Just don't prompt me, don't prompt. And then as I read and I get stuck again, she prompts straight away. So after that, I don't go to her anymore, right? Because it's not helping me, and I know it's not helping me. Don't prompt me, and let me go through my mind and find the ayat. Right? Don't let so as on the receiving end, I find it very stunting, right, of my memorization, right, when people keep prompting me, right, because it's not helping me at all with the prompting, right, unless I'm clueless lah. So when I'm clueless, then I will turn to my teacher and I will say, La adri, like, I have no clue what's in this ayat, that kind of thing. Right? So even in Darul Zahra, in our halaqah, the teacher, she will hold the prompting. Nobody else can prompt. No one is allowed to prompt. Only she holds the prompting. Right, so we will read same thing lah, ayat, right, and then she will just wait. She won't even read the previous ayat for us. She'll just wait for us and look at us. We look at her, then she'll be like, she will say to us, read what's before that. Right? So we will repeat what the previous person say. And she then that's how it's done lah. So she will just hold it until die we really don't know what it is. Then we have to say to her, I don't know what it is. Right? Then she will not even prompt. She will, because we all are Arab speakers kan. So she will mention something of the previous ayat. Right? Allah says this. What is next? That kind of thing. Right? So Allah spoke about people of heaven just now. So now, people of hell. That kind of thing. And I should give a clue, not by prompting, but by meaning. So the next part is about what? That kind of thing. But that one is later on lah. Right? As the Arabic language comes in, then they'll be able to. You can prompt by meaning, right? And not by the first word. Just prompt by meaning. And that is the best. Because then they really have to think what is the first word. That kind of thing.
From by signals, signs.
You can. Right, so that's why like we are doing it with the kids also. Right, but then that also comes with the meaning of the words lah. So like, man khaffat, right, man thaqulat. Right, so in that I'm trying to teach them the word thaqil and khafif. Khafif is light, thaqil is heavy. Right, that kind of thing lah. So man, but as they grow, they will pick it up lah, inshallah. Right, so you can prompt by gestures, but that is really after the silence. There has to be a silence, let them think first. And then they look at you blankly, they have no clue what's going on. I mean, what is the next ayat? Then you begin to prompt, right? Either by meaning, right? Or like with my cousin, she will just read the Malay translation of the next ayat. Then I figure out what's the Arabic. Right, so if that's ready, if I'm clueless lah, what is the next ayat? And so these are all skills in prompting, because prompting can really make or break their memorization. So, okay.
But just you were saying during the halakah that the parents are supposed to give the ayat in between, not from the start, right?
Yes.
So we, let's say Adi, we just give Inna Rabbahum, then they fill up the next ayat.
Yeah. So like the day when we played the game upstairs, what I was doing, I'll give them an ayat in the middle of the surah. So I'll make them read from the beginning, middle of surah, and they complete the surah. That kind of thing lah. Yeah. So as they memorize more, you just like give an ayat from here. Okay, finish the page, and give me the next page, the beginning of the next page. Usually we'll do that, because between pages is another skill of memorization. Yeah. So that one, it will make their memorization very, very, very strong. Right? If you're able to do that, like they take ayats here and there, right? It'll be very, very strong in them. Because right now you see that they get stuck. Right? But when I'm seeing that when I make them read it, they can continue. That means like by bringing them to the previous ayats, and I don't read it, they read it. They're able to continue after that. That's all, inshallah. Quran memorization is a very big task. It's a very big science. There's a lot of things to be said about it. Alright, number 11. أن يدخل عند الملل المضحكات المناسبة ويورد القصص لشد أذهانهم واستعادة نشاطها. Alright, so here, okay, number 11, right, is when they get bored. So when students get bored, right, Habib is saying, when they get bored, have suitable jokes. Right, so suitable jokes, and then some jokes here and there, make the story funny, try to make them laugh, right? That will bring them out of their boredom. And also tell them stories, right? And stories are for all ages, from young to very old. Can you all play in the room, please? Please play in the room and don't play outside. Yeah, can you please all play in the room? Thank you. Yes. What?
Just
Right, so yeah, jokes, ask questions, trivia, do lah, like competition, all those what teachers you all know lah. All these things are all techniques whereby you get back attention. Acting, that kind of things. So it's more all like, make them stand up and present. These are things that will change the atmosphere, right, of the class, especially for younger ones. For adults, stories usually will get them back. But most adults are able to sit through a lecture. Most adults. Right, but for kids, there's a lot of things you gotta do. And stories are very important, right? So as to ingrain in their head, right, the points, right, or the law, right? So like Abah Mariam, she has a collection of riddles in fiqh, right? So fiqh riddles, right? Which are true riddles. They're not like things that are wrong or anything. They are riddles, right? But they make your understanding of the law very firm. Right, because it's a riddle, what's the hukum here? That kind of thing, and it's not really like an exam question, but it's more of a riddle thing lah. But I asked you all one day, because she got so many. She always ask all these riddles. She'll be like, what is wajib to do but sunnah to niyat? And within it is something that is sunnah to do but wajib to niyat. That kind of riddles. Yeah, ask me before. I know. What is wajib to do but sunnah to niyat? But within it is something that is sunnah to do but wajib to niyat. Riddle. And once you know the answer, you'll never forget, because it's a riddle. So your mind is like, what in the world?
You forgot.
You forgot. I told you about it. Yeah, and I got another riddle to ask about this man. I talking about the man who atahiyah. There's this man, he's sitting there in the mosque all by himself, and he begins to do his atahiyah at the end of his salat lah. And he's like, At-tahiyatul mubarakatus salawatu tayyibatu lillah. Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How am I remember this whole thing up to the end? She did the whole thing during our class. So, and we all like sitting there watching her, and she's like, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. And she went on till the end. فَإِنَّكَ حَمِيدٌ مَجِيدٌ. She did that. She did that during class, the fiqh class. See, engagement. And then she said, Batala salat. Right. Then she say, Walakin. Right, but by that man breaking his salat, all the men in that town also their salat batal. Why? Riddle come out. The answers are all fiqh. They're all fiqh. Like, in that town,
He's the imam.
no, he's the only one in the mosque.
Your tahiyat was very long. I forgot the
It's one of the riddles. No, she got so many riddles. She gave us so many riddles.
Is he like the muazzin?
No. Before his salam only, he batalkan his salam. I take all another time. Leave you all there. Think about it. What is the law behind that?
Anything to do with the speed of reading?
No, fine.
You only have for prayer.
Huh?
There's no time for prayer.
It was not?
Time for prayer.
No, the prayer all batal. Those who had prayed Zohor, who had prayed at time, all batal.
When he ended his prayer. When his prayer batal.
Very batal. Everybody so batal.
Everybody else's prayer batal.
Why? How can that be? There's nobody praying with him. And even if imam prayer batal, makmum prayer tak batal.
Belum masuk waktu ni.
Tak, dah masuk waktu. Diorang dah solat dah. Everybody dah solat dah. Dia je lah yang last sebelum habis. Okay, anyway, let's continue. See, now I've like bothered you all with the question, with the riddle. Huh? The fake. What's the fake behind this? Yeah, what's the fake? One another one.
How to know the answer?
But this man, I told you before, right? This man, every day, he will hear the azan in the morning, right, for subuh. So he'll wake up every day, he'll pray his rakaat subuh, and he'll sleep straight away. After about 30 years, right, he woke up late. And then he hears a second azan. He was like, why is there a later azan? Then he realized that for 30 years, the first azan that he always heard was the azan of tahajjud, not subuh. So for 30 years of his life, he been praying subuh outside of the time of subuh. Because belum subuh. He prayed after the tahajjud time for 30 years of his life. What is the hukum on him right now? Qada. What's the hukum? Qada all 30 years?
Yeah.
No. Qada only one subuh.
Really?
Why?
The only subuh he figured out that he...
No. Then go back to PK also. It goes back to PK.
This is the same man.
Same guy? No. Same. This guy problematic. Why? So I give you an answer. Because when you pray, it is not wajib for you to say adaan or qadaan. But it will be what it is. For example, if I pray zuhur in time of zuhur, whether or not I say qadaan or adaan is adaan. If I pray zuhur in the time of asar, whether or not I say qadaan or adaan is qadaan. By default. So, every day, he's doing qada of the previous day. So, every day his subuh is the qada of the previous day punya subuh without him realizing. And it's fine. It's sah. So, every day he's been doing qada of the previous day. So, now he has realized he has to do qada of the previous day punya subuh.
He doesn't get the same of...
No, because he blur.
You wake up... I can explain now me.
Okay. Understand? Fikir. Because in the niyat, it's not wajib to say qada or ada. It will be what it is.
So if we say wrongly, it's also okay lah.
Yeah, fine. Yeah. So if let's say I pray zuhur and I pray zuhur again, automatically the second one is qada. Automatic. I don't have to say it. If I pray zuhur at the time of duha, automatic is qada. Automatic. I don't even have to say qada.
So even the next day when he did it in the wrong waktu, he qada
The previous day subuh. It's all fikir reader. She has a book of fikir readers ke apa benda. She is, I don't know what is by who. Okay, but any an example, it's like examples lah. Whereby you make them wake up, like one thing, and then you engage what they understood. Right, to apply it to reader. So the first two I leave it to you all to figure it out.
You want the ending to start in the 10.
Huh?
You want the ending to start next.
Hold me hostage. Alright, so number 12. Right. So activities, games, competition. So even within adults, right, to have group work. These are all things that really help them understand things. Right, especially if you make them present it. Right, it makes it firmer onto them.
Party was good lah, regularly.
Yes. So Quran buddy. Quran is it? Party. Quran party. And Quran buddy also. So Quran to do it, especially at this age, in a group, to do it together. So you also read one ayat and you pass on, and they also read and they pass on, that kind of thing. Right. So that one it really helps. Halaqah is the strongest way to make your memorization very firm. It's when you try to make it firm by yourself, one person, it's not going to be firm. That's why for me, I'm struggling it now because I'm by myself doing it. I've not found a halaqah where I can do it together with. In Darul Zahra, it was easier for me because I had halaqah with me. Right, so it's like, it keeps you on your toes, that kind of thing. So it's best if you can find a group of people, or even two people. So one and one. I take turns doing it. So don't just do it by yourself in one go. Right. So number right, and also Quran competitions lah. Right, so like who knows the next ayat, that kind of thing. Right. So number 12, right, an yasta'amil تطبيق فيما يتأتى تطبيقه كالوضوء والصلاة وغيرها. Right, so always to have practical lessons. So after theory, there has to be practical. Right, so you teach them tajweed, you must hear them do the tajweed during the Quran. You teach them wudu, you must see their wudu. And Hafizah Maryam said that you teach them wudu and maybe they're 4 years old or 5 years old. At 7, teach them again and check. At 8, every year, check again. At 9, check. Right, baligh, check. Right, so the wudu needs to be checked. Right, after they're baligh, by then they should be understanding lah. Right, and the prayer also, the Fatiha also. So you teach them Fatiha now. Right, the Fatiha is very much not proper. Right, when they grow older, every year you check the Fatiha, check the Fatiha, check the Fatiha. Maryam in fact went to the extent of saying that when they istinja, so you toilet train them now, for example, and they istinja. Right, so you check them, she said check them until they're the age of 7. You still check them. You see that they istinja properly. Yeah, make sure, because you don't want them to grow up having najis all over themselves. As you say, especially boys, make sure they know how to urinate properly. Right, because otherwise that is one of the reasons whereby people are punished in their graves. Right, so especially boys, make sure that they know how to check themselves. So the mother okay, the father okay, whichever. Right, just
Urinate properly means that they know how to sit down and
squat, and do the that thing, like basically do all of these things to make sure the urine comes out. Right, and then how the istinja. So she says you stand there and you watch. You actually watch them do it. Right, so don't let them like hide themselves. Of course they'll feel shy. Right, but after the age of 7, after 7 you can. But then make sure at 7 they understand. Right, that they're doing it properly. Are we supposed to end there? Huh? What do you all think? Right, we have 45 minutes already. So what do you all think? Should we end there? And other forms of practical lessons, right? It would be like especially if you're teaching akhlaq. So akhlaq, when we give like scenario, right? That is what is that? Akhlaq. So akhlaq scenario is different, real life is different, right? So of course when you teach akhlaq, you give scenarios. Right, but the lesson of akhlaq does not end with the scenarios. The lesson continues into real life. So when the akhlaq, right, is not good, you need to check you need to continue the lesson into that situation. And what akhlaq is it here? It's not good akhlaq. Right, what is the proper akhlaq that we learned in class? Do you remember? That is called tatbiq. Right, that is called following up the lesson. Right, during real life. Right, when it comes to this kind of situations. Prayer, make them read out loud so you hear what they're saying. Right, fasting also the niyat, make sure niyat is read out loud so you know what they're saying. All of these things lah. Other subjects, you all know lah. practical lessons of science and maths or whatever, English. Right. Okay. Should we continue? Should we stop there? Okay, number 13. Okay, we'll take number 13 and we stop there. Wa yajtaniba al-italah al-mumallah wa hirs ala inha ad-dars wan nufus raghibah fihi. Alright. Yes, which means I should stop here. So here, right, so to not allow things to drag on. Right, especially if you see that they are losing their attention span, they're getting tired, they're getting what? Don't drag. Especially if you're doing speeches. In fact, in Sibyan, the Shaykh, he does go into when you scold them. Right, don't just keep going on and on and on and on and on about it. Right, they have already blocked it out already at that point. Kan? So to that point. Right, but when it comes to lessons, right, when it comes to lessons, you teach them and you give them 2 riddles and you leave them there. Right, you just let them hang there with the riddles. Right, but basically, while they're learning more and more, then you stop. Okay, tomorrow we will continue. Right, so that they will look forward to lessons. Okay, so we pause there, inshallah. Right, he will go into, Hafiz will go after that. Thereafter, he will go into very detailed ways of teaching Quran, Hadith, Fiqh, Sirah, Aqidah. Right, different subjects. He will go into details. So how do we teach these things? Right, so. Adab dia akhlak, ada akhlak.
Number 3, right?
Ya, dia adab. Surah them. How did you say that? وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. الفاتحة. أن الله يرزقنا العلم النافع وعمل الخاص وسيدنا في نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم علينا وإلى أحباب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين.